What is a world games tryout like? Like, what is playing at, the highest level of ultimate like?
And I'm okay. I'm at peace, and it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to not hit goals.
Just this moment, like, yo, what the ref?
Yeah, yeah, I know. That's it. That's my hands down. But nowadays I'm
Welcome to the Field of Minds podcast, Rowan. Great to have you.
super happy to be here. This is a long time coming, and I can't wait to dive into whatever we have in store today.
Okay, first question. We're diving right in. What is the moment that you fell in love with Ultimate?
Starts with a pull, right? I was at Southern Connecticut Ultimate Frisbee League. We're talking low level league, some people with bare feet. Um, and yeah, it was just played on the softball field. So it was like this curved ish field, just squeezing it in like a lot of people out there do. And the pole went up, and it was looking back on it, what maybe 50 yards, 50 meters. I thought it was like a mile. I was like, how is that thing going so far? And how did that kid, who I knew known before, wasn't like a great athlete or like, this crazy strong person, just launched it. And I'm like, I want to do that. And from that moment, I was like, I'm going to learn how to throw a frisbee.
When was that? Where was that too?
That was in Waterford, Connecticut, one town over from my hometown, East Lyme, Connecticut. And that must have been, I can put a fake date on it. It was July 2012, maybe 2011, because I didn't start playing until 2012. Yeah, it was summer night in 2011. And that's when the pursuit of what I call my craft began.
Yeah, that was the start of Road McDonald.
It's just crazy. It's a long road looking back on it, thinking back that far, and it is wild where it has taken me. I can't say I'm the only one. The sport's magical, and it's transcended lots of people all over the world's lives. That's the one common theme that I have when I go do my clinics internationally, meet so many people, is that like this sport is a big part of their identity and their community. So yeah, it's been incredible for me, but it's also probably been pretty good and special for everyone out there listening.
Yeah, 13 years is like it feels like simultaneously a really long time, but also it just went by in a flash.
Yeah, I was always kind of proud because I started a little bit late in my life, maybe 22 years old. So I remember my first couple years playing, I was on these teams. How long has everybody played? Oh, 10 years, 15 years. I'm like, wow, they've been playing forever. I've been playing for 2 years, 3 years. And now looking back, I'm the player that's played for 13 years. And, these college kids or high school kids that, play breeze and truck and dig are like, yeah, I just started playing 4 years ago. And I'm like, damn, they're better than me already.
Yeah. Do you get that on teams where it's like, or I'm starting to experience this now too with some of the club teams where like I'm OG or like I'm Unk on the team and I'm like like damn.
Yeah, I love it. I'm like half embracing it, half like, oh, I wish I was that younger kid again. They're just so fun, the new generation, and they've just shared their joy and energy, and then I try to feed off that. But yeah, I'm totally just like definitely the older statesman. I was the oldest player on Team USA's gold medal run in Australia, and I've just kind of like owned it. Like, and I see other athletes in different sports, and I'm just like, yeah, it takes so long to get your body ready to play.
Mhm.
This ultimate is such a demanding sport, and I'm just like really proud to be like, yeah, I'm still feeling young. I'm still hanging with these 20-year-olds running. They're running circles, but they're running circles. They're running circles to the wrong spot on the field. So I'm like, your speed, sorry, doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you've got the tactics. You have the ulti IQ to shut them down either way.
I do. It took me a long time to get the ulti IQ. I used to be the absolute worst. Josh McCarthy, my first club coach, was yelling at me. I wouldn't be on the right. I didn't know what the foreside was. Like I couldn't understand what the plays were, and it just took me a while. Even offensively, I just like run right at the disc, and now I'm out there coaching around the world, saying clearing, gotta clear, you gotta make space. So I've come a long way in the game IQ realm, and luckily I swerved hard into improving in that game because it makes you timeless and it makes you like a cheat code on the field. Even though I can't run or jump like I used to, the game's never been easier.
It's never been easier. Damn,
No,
that's really good to hear. That's sick.
I think today, like actually 2 weeks ago, I was the best player that I've ever been. I went on a coaching trip and a wedding, and I lost my routine for 2 weeks. So I'm getting that back. But yeah, I feel like right now is like I'm in probably the truest peak I've ever been. Kind of a good balance of no injuries, health, athleticism, but also that game IQ and just like the ability to be a good teammate and help the team win.
Yeah, can you speak to that a little bit more actually? Because that's one thing that I've really wanted to ask you about, which is if like how have you seen your career over the entire span? Like, what are those major points in terms of development, in terms of the main teams, the main influences, maybe milestones that you've reached and accomplished? Like, what are those things that led you to the current Rowan McDonald, where like you said, you're at your peak? Like, what were those points?
Yeah, the first thing, and I'm sure there's some teammates that remember this. Like I made Ironside, which was a top club team in Boston. That was like my first major club team. I had played pickup before, and a pickup sectionals team. I made Ironside because at the end of the first public open tryout, nobody knew who I was. They did a huck drill, and it was just like you huck down the line, and then you like, oh no, you huck across the field, and then you cut across the field, and it's like an X cutting, deep cutting game. And I was just jumping, and I could jump like, you know, maybe if you only see me play for a couple of years, you're like, oh, he's pretty good at jumping. But back in the day, I was dunking. I was doing 360 dunks. I was doing dunks like some really cool ones, and I could jump. So I was just catching all these at this tryout, and they're like, who's that kid that's like jumping up and catching them at like 11 feet? And the last tryout, 6 tryouts later, I got another deep D in the air, and I think that's why I made Ironside is because I could jump high and get some blocks. So I started my career like many do, like hey, you go play defense, you get the disc, you hand it off to Alex Simmons or Rusty Engold Smith, Russell Wallach, and you get out of the way on offense. Like, but for me, that never was going to be an option. I was too committed to practicing. The thing that's like kind of aided my career as a player and a coach, like my dad was, he was always teaching me like fundamentals and like, getting better at aspects of basketball or baseball or whatever sport I was playing. So I've always loved to practice. Like I like drills and practicing more than games, at least this point in my career. So I was like, I'm not just going to be this deep defender that is one dimensional. I'm practicing my throws. I never saw myself as a player that just wanted to dump the disc. So, yeah, just coming in as a raw athlete with an open mind to get better and the will to do it was kind of the first couple of years. And my career hit like another major breaking point 1 year after. Like it's getting cut from Ironside, the team that I made. And then that put me on to Garuda, which my role increased overnight 1,000%. I was sitting the bench on Ironside, which was fine. Like I was getting so much better in practice, and my eyes were open to the best players in the world. Wouldn't trade that for anything. But Garuda, the next year, my role just increased. I was the first cut. I got the green light to cut and huck, and I was still the raw athlete, but now I started to put some offense into my game. And then the next turning point wasn't until 2017. I had moved to DC, played D-line for them. And then in 2017, right before the first club tournament, I think I asked Cranston, or maybe the leadership asked me, but I was like, let me try offense, And Nicky Spiva, was over on the O line, and I went to offense in that first tournament. I just cut deep every time he got the disc, and I caught like 20 deep goals at the U.S. Open or the equivalent. And from there, like kind of my offensive side was born. And I switched over to offense on the breeze that year and really started to just be a runner. Like I would run deep and then under and across the field. I would run miles every point. I'm breathing heavier than anybody's ever breathed in Ultimate. I don't know where that comes from, but yeah. And even looking at the tape now, I could not have been a different player. Now, actually after COVID, right, I have my hamstring injuries, 2 major hamstring injuries that took 3 years and I'm still dealing with today. And so I'm like, instead of all this running, I'm not going to say I invented this position because Johnny Mox really brought the offense to DC, but I'm like, wait, I can go to the front of the stack and just make one jab cut and go to the break side where my defender's not and get the disc over and over again. And so my game was revolutionized and it was so much more efficient and it was so much more based off IQ and getting my defender to lean the wrong way. And I don't think I made a 40-yard cut in 3 years. And, in 2018, 2019, I'd make 4 a point. So, yeah, just complete evolvement. I went from raw athlete, no idea what's going on, to like a pretty good athlete, kind of injured, but really knows what's going on. And once I started coaching and doing a lot of work on Excel and game film analysis and working with players and coaches, like that all just fed into my brain power. And now I try to be like kind of a game IQ, a heady, wise old vet.
To recap kind of what I heard, it's like you started off as that raw athlete. So it sounds like you had some sport background from basketball, from baseball, was it before? Were those the 2 main sports?
Yeah, also tennis. I played tennis like as a junior in high school. I remember I never really played tennis. Showed up to tryouts, didn't really make varsity, and then all of a sudden I went from like last place on JV all the way till the end of the year. I won the JV tournament, and then the next year jumped into varsity, captained, got the school to put up nets so our team could start training in March. Like when I dive into something, I dive in pedal to the metal, and I think I ended up playing number 4 singles, and then we had a policy that was just like you can challenge the person ahead of you like once a week, but nobody really did it. But every week I was challenging David Brown. I never beat him, but it was just, that's just kind of the mindset that, yeah, so big tennis fan and definitely took stuff from that and all the other sports into Ultimate. So
Yeah.
I feel like I got a head start there.
Yeah, it sounds like that steel sharpens steel mentality from tennis. I feel like that's so important to just getting better at any aspect of any sport or anything really
Yeah,
competitive.
totally. Cheat code out there if you're listening. It's like play with somebody that's better than you or like slightly better than you is amazing. Like it's just you get so much better that way, and that's what really helped my career with Ironside, right? Like I was the worst player on the team, but just playing with them just like it raises you up. So I'm a big believer in, yeah, if people around you are like smarter than you or better than you, like yeah, you're in a great spot. So I'm blessed to have had that opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I very much vibe with too. Like I think that was one thing that I learned in school, which is like, oh, if there's somebody that's better than you at something, then like throw the ego aside, just ask them for help because then you just fast track your own development and also they get better by teaching it as well. So it's like win-win.
Yeah, totally. I've had those kind of relationships in Ultimate. Just I've stole everything. I don't think I've brought anything new to the table. It's all been stolen and maybe modified.
Modified to adjusted to play suit your play style.
Exactly.
Especially since we mentioned the tennis and also basketball and baseball, are there any aspects from each of those sports that you find are really applicable also to ultimate players in terms of you've added it to your bag or when you're teaching people, you've noticed, oh, they have this background, this is really helpful?
Yeah, there's 2 ways that I think those other sports have really helped me and can help other players. Because Ultimate is kind of crazy. It's some people have never played a team sport or a sport before, and they come here, and some have played soccer, basketball, anything, cricket, you name it. So for me at least, like the two really helpful aspects of sports was one, just like how to pursue your craft, and it's learning how to kind of coach yourself. It's a big thing to have people tell you something or show you something, but until you actually do something, like your body doesn't know how to do it. So just kind of getting reps of, yeah, just like jumping off one foot. That's a great example. It's not many people are kind of taught this mechanic to go from a full sprint to a straight jump. And if you do it right, you can get really high. And yeah, like basketball, you're just doing that over and over. You're 5, you're 6, you're 7, and I got that motion down. And now my body starts to learn, okay, you're really good at that. Now what happens if you jump off 2 feet? And it just kind of snowballs. And the more data points you have internally on, okay, here's another great example. My kind of jab cut. I coached this last week. I was in Europe. When you cut an ultimate, and you want to go, say, left. Left is your under. You don't just kind of turn and run. You plant your right foot and push off your right foot to the left. But if you can do that while you're slowly showing your upper body right, then the defender thinks you're going right. And you can use your head fake and your eye fake. And you can drop your depth. You can drop your hips so you can push faster. So like those things to me as are like what that knowledge of athleticism and knowing what your body can do. And I was super lucky to just play sports my whole childhood and learn some of those things. And they're all learnable. Like you're not just naturally a good athlete or not. Yes, it helps, but all the stuff you can learn. So I think it's really fascinating. And like one big thing that sports taught me was like how to move. And now my whole game is predicated on moving well. Like I'm not as fast, as quick, as springy, but I still have like I'm very shifty, and yeah, that comes from all that stuff. And the second part, of course, is definitely basketball and really tennis is just kind of figuring out that wrist can really accelerate a frisbee. Like too many people throw with their middle finger and wrist and elbow kind of in a line, and they're not able to lead the elbow and lead the wrist and then follow through with the middle finger to create a 50-yard throw with minimal effort. And I just put out a video on YouTube talking about that. And I think for tennis, like the serve or just like a hard shot is just a really good window of how you can like use your wrist to just throw a hammer, scuba, blade, forehand very efficiently and very far.
Yeah, no, it sounds like the biggest thing that you took from your previous sports was that ability to learn about your own body, but then also work on the skills that you wanted to work on and prioritize. And it's like when you're trying to figure out or teach students, that's one of the primary things that you look to teach them. Is that about right?
100%. And it's like really obvious when it's throwing. Of course, it goes across the board, but how many times I've seen like somebody make the same throwing mistake like 10 times. Like say you're new to throwing a disc, a lot of the natural movement is going to turn your forehand over, and it's going to kind of blade off to the left if you're right-handed. And if this person's like frustrated, like it keeps happening, like the athlete and myself is like, okay, well, I'm not going to try to throw it straight. I'm going to try to throw it so like inside out, it goes right. And then like kind of meet it in the middle. And where I see like some people that maybe don't have that sports background is like they'll make the same mistake so many times over and over, and it's like, okay, no, you gotta try something new, even if that new thing is way wrong. Just like overcompensate the other way.
Yeah, I've started to kind of talk to some of my teammates or friends more in detail about like how do you learn throwing, how do you coach it, and I've definitely found that too. Of like, even during the session or like during tossing, they'll like fix the one or two things, but then because it's not ingrained in muscle memory yet, or because they maybe don't have the thought process of like this is how to think about trying to learn of what to think about when you improve your throws. Like that is a whole separate skill too to help them learn along the way.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, I think it started with Mario and it came through Neely, but it's just like it just blew my mind when I heard that. It's like you show somebody something, they see it. If you tell somebody something, they hear it. And so many coaches think that they're doing their job by showing or telling somebody something, and they're not. And you're not if you're coaching. If your player does it, then been then it's been absorbed. So like, yeah, like you really want to, and figuring out ways to make that happen is a challenge. But yeah, just like showing somebody the right way to do something or telling somebody the right way to do something is you're leaving a little bit on the table. So yeah, just I try when I'm doing my throwing academies with the clients, just ways to just a million different cues until like something clicks, because
Yeah.
those aha moments are game changing. I remember my first aha moment throwing. I didn't play college ultimate, but Eastern Connecticut State, I found it in my senior year, and had like 6 players at practice. We were playing 500. Like that's my college ultimate experience. 500. We entered one tournament as a mixed team in the open division, but Amherst High School won that tournament. But we're playing 500, and we're having the thrower throw downwind. And so now these 6 players, when we have the disc throwing it back to the player throwing, we're throwing upwind, and my throws were just going like half the way and turning over. And one of our players was able to get it there. And he's like, oh, you know what? If you point the disc down, then it goes further upwind. And then I just did it. And I had more power, natural snap than him. So I just made that little IO correction. The disc goes all the way back to the thrower and just like kind of blew my mind. So, that's like, to me, then it clicks. And it's like, okay, if I want to throw in the wind, I need to figure out this angle. So that's the best way to learn. And just, coming from other sports, like I was at least a little bit more, it helped me find those aha moments and click better.
Gotcha. It's that maybe that wrist snap from the tennis that helped you get all that power at the
Totally. I
beginning.
think so. Like my first week throwing a forehand, it went 15 yards. But after I watched Brody Smith's pro tips and threw in my room thousands and thousands of reps, my 6-pack of Ultra Star, the colored set, I bought that. I put up a blanket in my closet, threw for months probably. The forehand was pretty snappy pretty early on.
Gotcha. Okay, I have a clip that I want to try to screen share, and I just want to get your reaction to it.
Yes.
So I want to see if this works. Let's see if it'll work out the way I hope it will.
Norbom to McDonald. Well, he thought he was in, and then he flicks it over the top. One of his 75 million throws. Rowan.
Yeah.
Did you hear the audio for that too?
I did. And I
Okay,
think
good.
the audio is great because Evan nailed it. The only thing I remember about this clip, it's the only thing, and I've seen it a bunch. They posted, and I think I posted it. I was so mad that they didn't call me in. First and foremost, my mentor, Josh Marquette, was probably the GOAT of milking the disc in the end zone, or like he just had this knack, and he's always saying it's super important. So for me, I'm always like, that's a personal challenge. I want to be the best, and I'm great. And now Jacques Nissen is taking up this mantle. He's pretty good. He's got some work. He's made a few mistakes, but I was so mad that they didn't call me in. You see me put my hands down, and then I just launched that over the top. I never practiced that throw. I've never thrown that throw in my entire life. I've thrown push passes, but I don't know why it came out vertical. I was just so kind of upset that I wasn't called in. I was like a little bit like, I'm pissed. I'm throwing this. But yeah, I mean, that had no practice. I had not thrown that. After the clip came out, I threw it a few times to practice, and I think I've thrown it in since then. But yeah, that was just completely spontaneous. I love creativity in ultimate. That is one of my favorite parts about the sport. And yeah, it just came down to, why didn't you call me in, bud?
Yeah. Wait, I'm gonna share the screen again just to show that freeze frame. Just this moment. Like, Yo, what the fuck, ref?
Yeah, I know. That's it. That's my hands down. But nowadays, our refs came to practice today, and I'm telling the team, hey, like they're volunteering their time. We're gonna be super nice. And I think early in my career, I was like sometimes get upset at the refs, and I'm trying to be better now. So
Yeah.
much love. Appreciate everybody helping, trying to help the game.
So, Rowan, if you had one piece of advice, maybe for the different buckets of people that you've played with, work with, or have helped out, do you have any specific advice for those groups or any general advice for really anybody?
Yeah, I think the first thing I would tell almost every player, but particularly high school, YCC, and that freshman in college, is when you're learning to throw, work on building power. And even if you're not accurate, too many new players and youth players try to be accurate and hit that 5 to 10 yard pass. But by building power, you're going to be able to do so much more throughout your career. A lot of players hit a wall when they try to just be too gentle, too accurate, just so that they can, play that first drill. So that's huge. I think as you kind of pursue yourself into more of like a club and competitive young adult stage, I think the two tips of advice that I would give are, one, invest in some kind of strength and conditioning, some gym. When I started playing Ultimate 13 years ago, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 players on a team were like regularly lifting in the gym and had plans, and now it's like the entire 26. So I think just that's going to help injury prevention. It's going to help you feel stronger, and I think it's a must for the way our sport's played. I had a great conversation with Felipe, our co-founder at Excel. We were talking about pickleball versus Ultimate, and pickleball and paddle are exploding because almost anybody can go play. Whereas in Ultimate, it's hard because not everybody wants to run full speed, change direction, and change direction again, and it's pretty hard on the ankles, the knees, the hips, and everything. So definitely would want to have people kind of invest in a little bit of the strength and conditioning and injury prevention side. And then like the last tip, which is relevant to everyone, is just, enjoy the process of the training and practicing, because if you're looking for advice on like how to improve or how to, maybe you'll enjoy Ultimate if you're a little bit better, nobody's going to want to practice if they go to a toxic environment in practice or they're not having any fun. So you got to maintain that like joy for the sport, because we all battle with the same thing, and that's like real life, work, jobs, relationship. And to squeeze in some time to work on Ultimate, like, yeah, make sure you're enjoying it and pursue it with creativity and a sense of fun and joy. So that's where I would go with my advice to, that newish player.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like, what is it like? Like, when you go to a high level tournament, how many of the people do you know because you've like coached them or like helped them out? And
Yeah,
what is that feeling like?
I can start just with DC, right? Like AJ was in the AUA camp, Jacques, AUA camp. Some of these high schoolers, I go do a little, demo at their high school. Yeah, I've probably interacted with 5 to 10 players just in DC. Miles Grovic, I remember the Lees introduced me to this kid. He loves to lay out. He must have been 12 years old. This is probably 10 years ago. And I threw him like 5 layouts, and he just goes chest high layouts, slams on the ground over and over. And it's wild. I wonder if he remembers that. I got to ask him. But yeah, even just like, we're going to play Philadelphia Phoenix next week in the UFA, and they got the Grossberg brothers, and I just like, oh, Grossberg, like there was a Grossberg that came to my AUA camp 7 years ago, and yep, that's him. He played chain. He guarded me in nationals quarterfinals. He's so good, and it's wild. Aiden Downey, he's my new teammate. I met him at cut camp 9 years ago. He was a 16, 17-year-old up-and-coming player, and now we're going to be, going every other, it's wild, and it's really cool to see. And one of the special parts about kind of what I do, blending playing and coaching together is seeing some of these players that I've coached a little bit come and take my spot. And I never give 100% when I'm coaching. I only give 90%. I save 10% to myself so I can hold on a little bit longer.
Yeah, when it's game time, you could be like, oh, you put in that extra 10%. It's like, oh, I got a trap card laid for you.
Exactly. You think I'm giving away all my secrets on YouTube or at these clinics? No, they get most of it. They get a lot of hard work, but I save the best 10%.
You keep the counter in your back pocket to pull out during game time, during the
Exactly.
universe point. Okay.
And then when I retire, then I'll share it all.
Okay. Maybe just for the pod. Just for the pod is.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get a little greedy on the pod if you have any
Okay.
questions. It's our first episode. I want to get some listeners out there.
Yeah, that's a preview too. We're gonna have for the listeners. We got a Q&A section planned as well, so keep your eye out for that.
Absolutely.
One quick question that I had too, and this was something that it's again with the context of I haven't played too many competitive sports really, and I know that Ultimate is one of the relatively less developed sports where with some of the best coaches, usually those are just for some of the best teams. So I imagine with your experience of playing on different sports and different teams at all the different levels you've had, and you've mentioned playing with a lot of amazing coaches. So I'm thinking about the art of the pregame speech or the art of that speech at halftime or the timeout where you're down by a couple points, you got to rally the troops. I'm sure that you've been on the receiving end of some amazing speeches. Maybe you've given a few too. I was wondering, do you have any thoughts on what makes an excellent pregame or timeout speech?
Yeah, I think the most important part of that pump up pregame speech or halftime speech is, like one person getting in there, delivering it efficiently, emotionally, passionately, and then breaking it down. Like those never go so well if it's a strategic talk and then the pep talk, or a pep talk and then layer it with strategy. So I would just keep it to a bare minimum and just have, somebody that is, wearing their heart on their sleeve, just deliver an honest and heartfelt message, whether that can be inspirational or like more of a challenge, or it should come naturally. It shouldn't be forced, and it shouldn't be scripted. So I think like a really vulnerable, quick, efficient pep talk is very much better than a long drawn out huddle. And I think there's times for strategic huddles, but you can't really blend the two in my experience. And there was a really funny clip that I think Jeff Wodach maybe found. Trent Dillon might have posted it, but it was like Ultimate 20 years ago. And it was this huddle. It was like one player said something, and then another player added on to it. And it probably got 5 or 6 players. And it was insane. There was probably no coaches back then. And it was just like, that is how not to huddle. And maybe we can find it for our Instagram, or we can put the clip in. But stick quick, efficient, honest, heartfelt. Time to play.
Strategy or emotional, keep it to one. Don't try to mix it up or you lose the messaging. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there one maybe speech or moment that is still like, what is the first thing that comes to mind if I ask you, like, what is the best speech that you've heard in the huddle?
I think just one of the better ones was Chris Kotcher got the huddle before, I believe it was Japan in the World Championship. And he was just kind of an analogy. And that's just like not in my repertoire. I don't really take those speeches like that, but it kind of made a lot of sense. Like we were in Australia, we're hanging out on the beach all day, and he was just kind of like, yeah, like, hey, waves, just like wave after wave, just like crashes into the beach. Like, let's be that type of team where we just like keep coming and keep coming. And I guess our defense listened because they got maybe 9 breaks or something crazy. And we were the waves. We were the waves in that tournament. But I just thought that was cool because it was a little outside the box. Like he just kind of went with an analogy that meant a lot to the team. delivered it well, and the team responded. So that's the first speech that comes to mind.
That's awesome. It's like, I'm sure that a lot of people have heard about you or watched some of your content in some regard. So I'm wondering, taking a look back at, the entire Ultimate career, but also the content creation journey, what do you think is maybe the thing that you're most proud of in that journey? And also, what is maybe one thing that you look back on and you're like, oh, I wish I would have done it maybe this way instead?
Yeah, the content journey for me is just blows my mind. And I still remember, I'll give it like the quick story. This is what happened. I learned the pizza pie from Josh Marquette, which is the coolest throw in the world. 5 hands on top of the Frisbee, you kind of air bounce it forward. Nobody ever has seen this. And I threw it before a Breeze game. And this is, in June. And nothing happened. But in December, the intern must have found the clip going through all the footage, and they're like, oh, this is cool. And they put that clip of me throwing the pizza pie on Instagram, and the engagement, like, it blew up. Like, it doesn't go viral because it's still like a small community, but like you could tell, like, everybody's asking, what is that? What is that? So I'm like, I'll just do a YouTube tutorial. I borrow the Breeze owner, Ty, who's my mentor and has really helped push my Ultimate career forward. I borrowed his video camera, camcorder that he used for his daughter's field hockey games. And I put it up, I read off a script, and I taught how to throw the pizza pie with Brad Scott right down the street here, Turkey Thicket, shout out Turkey Thicket. And just a tutorial. And in that tutorial, at the end, we were just messing around, and I kind of caught the pizza pie in the pizza pie grip, which is 5 fingers on top of the disc. So I caught it with no hands and fired it back. And then I just put it on YouTube. I had no subscribers, no views. I had no idea what I was doing. It was an awful video. You can go watch it. Rowan McDonald Pizza Pie. I'm going to reshoot it soon. And I just put it out there. And you asked me, like, what's one of the proudest things of, like, kind of that online educational journey that I've taken? And for me, it's that I, like, kind of like you, like, I just went for it. And I didn't really care too much. I'm like, I'm just going to put something out there. And it's hard. And it's like, we're in a peer sport. We have peers, like, it can be feel uncomfortable to, like, put yourself out there, put yourself online, YouTube, Instagram, whatever. But I just went for it, and the next day it had like 10,000 views in 12 hours. Like, Brody Smith commented on it, and the UFA ADL at the time shared it. And then I'm like, oh, okay. Well, the next big step was I did the second coolest throw that Josh Cricket Marquette taught me, which was like this upside down flipper. It's a really cool throw. And then after both of those videos did good, I'm like, you know what? Video 3 is just me listing every single throw that Josh had taught me, plus that I had learned, which was like maybe 30 throws. And from then on, it just, like, I just broke down trick throws. And after a little while, I decided to transition from trick throws to real throws, forehand, backhand, hammer, how to cut, and, like, slowly ultimate education. And ever since then, I've just been so fortunate that, like, people, and humbled, people from all over the world are just watching these, sharing them with their teams. Because I'm not sure if you've traveled too much in Ultimate. US and Canada is really spoiled, where, UNC had 6 coaches on the sideline at Nationals, and DC Breeze have 4 great coaches this year. You go to other countries, there's no real coaches. It's a player, it's a peer, and they're just, it's tough. So the fact that I'm able to help other teams kind of find that coach or some stuff is super cool. And now to make it my job with Excel Ultimate is incredible. So the hardest part, you asked me what the hardest part with content is that it takes a lot of work. I shot, filmed, edited poorly, didn't have good audio. I was a one-person team for so long, and it's draining, and there's no money coming in from it because it's a small sport, and it's Yeah, there's so many challenges trying to be a content creator in Ultimate, and I'm sure as you're aware, but the fact that you get a DM from somebody saying like, "Oh, thank you for this video. Like my team used this drill every practice for 1 year," and it's just like, wow, like it is meaningful. So that's kind of like looking back on it, it's a crazy arc that, you know, one little video has kind of changed my trajectory. And not the ironic part, but I was kind of a nobody when I put that video out. I was like a D-line player in DC, like a dime a dozen. And then slowly it just, my career started to like, the trajectory started to go up. Now all of a sudden I'm like, I got the MVP of the UFA. I'm on the national team. And I'm like, oh, so okay. People might start like, you know, watching these videos like, oh, he knows what he's talking about. So it's wild that, yeah, like when it started, I was just your average player, and now I've kind of become, pretty good alongside of the content, and I'll continue to make some more.
Yeah, it snowballed from that initial video, that initial pizza pie.
Yeah, I mean it's now, my full-time job.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to the piece on. I think one of the unexpected, really coolest parts of posting content is just the random messages or DMs or comments that are like, "Yo, I'm from this place in the world." Like I got a message today from like on TikTok, and it was this person saying like, "Oh, like I'm from Jakarta. Like I watched the video, loved it, keep it up." And I was like, I'm terrible at geography, so immediately I open another tab and I'm like, Jakarta, where is it?
Yeah.
But it's so cool. Like I think this is also one of the main reasons too that I was so excited to host this pod, which is like I love having conversations with people in Ultimate because I get to learn about what their Ultimate like community, like what Ultimate looks like in their city and in their country, and like how it shapes how the seasons shape, how the population shapes what the practices and what the games look like. But at the end of the day, we all go to the same tournaments, at the top level, at the highest scale in the worlds, whatever. Like you end up in the same rule set, same field, but the way that you get there and what it looks like on the day to day is so different, and I just love that.
Yeah, I
Those
mean
conversations.
it's as I travel more for my clinics, the Excel clinics. It's like, everybody's always, one example in the U.S. It's like Discraft is everything. Like if it's not a Discraft, I'm not using it. And
Yeah.
everybody thinks like U.S. Canada that, hey, like everybody uses the Discraft, but you go to China and they use the XCOM or Ikun disc. Like they don't use the Discraft. So maybe a few clubs do. Or you go to Europe now, and like Eurodisc is like the new standard because they are sponsored with UCF. So you go to Egypt and they do play tournaments, but their major competition is a league that they run, like the Premier League, where you have a higher level. Like it's so different around the world, but like you said, it's still, when there's a game, it's 7-on-7, you're playing, maybe there's more contact. There's a little more contact on the mark in Egypt because they come from a lot of soccer backgrounds, and like that physicality's fine. US is a little handsy and grabby on defense. Europe doesn't like that contact. So it is the same sport, but I think the diversity is a lot higher than people think here, at least in like my bubble of like the elite US scene. Like there is so much more types and styles and aspects of Ultimate that is really, it's out there, and it's super cool.
Yeah, I don't have that context yet. The only international tournament I did an exchange semester in the UK for a bit, but I just played in the local circuit. But then playing against, I think, some of the South American teams at PAOK, it was one of the main experiences that I had. And even that, it was like they run their offense so differently. Like just the mentality at the highest level of like what they try to run. They don't run set plays. They just flow into whatever. It's just very tempo based.
No, but sometimes it's not even flow. I played with Venezuela twice. What some of my greatest experiences, and yeah, our offense was like, you just run around and you work hard, and they play with passion, they play with pride, and I loved it. But yeah, it's like it wouldn't wouldn't what we be called like a system strategy or clean ultimate, but hey, like that's what we did, and yeah. So shout out to people just kind of doing their thing and having fun doing it, because like I said, that's what we're all here doing, and we're not doing it for the $1,000,000.
You've given me one thing to look forward to for sure. Is like I really want to experience the international competition side a bit more on at the world's level, and also just traveling and seeing what it's like in the more local kind of communities and cities. So that's cool. I
Yeah.
might pick your brain more about that in the future.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get caught up on like the elite scene in the U.S. Like that's kind of what we both play. But yeah, there's so much more out there.
Okay, Rowan, I wanted to dive into the highest level of Ultimate stage because I feel like a lot of people have any context or window into this. So I know for you, you've played on you were looked over for the 2016 Team USA team. For the 2020 team during COVID, you made it, but then it was all canceled because of COVID. And for 2024, you made Team USA for Open and then got cut recently for the World Games roster. So I'm wondering, could you maybe walk me through some of the experiences, emotions? Like, what is a World Games tryout like? Like, what is playing at, the highest level of Ultimate like? Is it very different than club, from pro, from league? Some of those things that maybe the typical person can't experience or hasn't experienced yet.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've always been like I want to play with the best, play for the best, and yeah, if you're unfamiliar, basically in the U.S. there's the WUC, which is the World Ultimate Championship. It used to be called WUGC, but probably 15 years ago, maybe 10, 12 years ago, in USA decided instead of sending a club team to this tournament that they're going to do an all-star team, and they're going to have tryouts, and they're going to put like the best 24 players in the men's, women's, and mixed team. Before, it was like Revolver was just going as USA against all of these all-star teams. And Fury lost to Japan, I believe. In 2012, great game. And then I think USAU was like, all right, let's put together an all-star team. So the first one was 2016, and I was still kind of like up and coming. I wanted to try out. But they didn't even let me try out. I didn't make it through the application process. That was a bit of a bummer. I still remember like I was bitter. I've always wanted. I was like, didn't even let me try out. So I was a little pissed. That's okay. In 2020, I tried out for the team and made it. And yeah, COVID hit, and that was a bummer. But that's when I had 2 hamstring injuries. At the end of that tryout, I tweaked one, and then I ended up like tearing both in some capacity. So I was like pretty injured all 2020. It would have been interesting to see if that tournament was on, how I would have done if I would have played. So the thing is, if you make those WUC teams, the world's teams, you do get an invitation for World Games tryout, which is, you talk about the highest level of Ultimate, that's it, right? 7 players, 7 men, 7 women, and only the top 8 teams in the world, top 8 countries in the world. So that's, you can do the math. 8 times 14 is like 112, maybe. Like that's really exclusive. So 2021 World Games tryouts come around, and I'm still like, this is when I'm kind of in the weeds of these injuries. So the calendar got pushed, so the tryouts are after the 2021 season. They pushed it a year for COVID. I only came on club truck stop at the end of the year, like for a month because of the hamstrings. So I tried out for World Games, and I got cut after the first tryout, which was a huge bummer too. Like I was still injured, but I was, healthy enough to give it a go. I felt pretty good, and I was like pretty upset because I was just off the first tryout. This past World Games was like really, really big for me for a couple of reasons. One is like I was kind of healthy. I was feeling great. Two, I'm like, I don't know how many World Games trials I have left. I'm 35, almost 36. It's going to be hard to make it at, you never know where you're going to be in 4 years. So this was for me, like, this is my big shot. The tournaments in China, I just did a 30-day trip to China teaching 22 cities or 22 places ultimate. It was all like full circle. This was my moment. I had just played dig up in New England and got more reps as like a handler. So now like my game's more well-rounded. Like everything was there. I make it through the first tryout, play well, and now we go into the final tryout. There might be, at this point, 30 players left, 15 men, 15 women, and I honestly didn't have a great second tryout. How the stage was set, at least, Jimmy had been the big quarterback of the previous 2 World Games teams, and he was out of the running. So I was like, okay, well, maybe, I don't know all the details, but for me, it's like my path just to kind of be that position, just like use my deep throws and be a handler. And, that's what I went for. That's what the coaches thought would be my best path. And I missed a couple throws, and it's a bummer. I probably took 6 hucks in that weekend and only hit 2 or 3. And if I get, and I also had a couple plays on defense that, came my way, and I misread two deep ones. And I think if I get 3 deep blocks and hit all 6 of my hucks, then it's a completely different story. And I think I kind of take that spot as that thrower. And I didn't. And it's interesting because for me, like, maybe I'll never make World Games, and that would internally be a bummer because it's cool just to be like, club, nationals, check, world's team, check, beach worlds, check. And just like World Games is a check box that might never get checked. But at the same time, like, I gave it a good shot. I feel I put in a lot of work to get healthy for that tournament. I put in a lot of work in the last 10 years. And yeah, it is like, it's a huge bummer. And yeah, the big question for me now is, like, will I have another run in me? Will they take a 40-year-old on that team? Like, I think I'll have to be the best player in the world, 0.5 times like 1.5. And that's going to be hard to do in 3 years if I couldn't do that in the last 10. So I don't know. I have a lot of mixed feelings with it, but I wasn't as crushed as I kind of thought. I'm happy that I didn't make it like an all or nothing thing, because it really isn't. There's a lot of other important things in my life and revolving around Ultimate, and I'm okay. I'm at peace, and it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to not hit goals. I've always set really high and lofty goals, and definitely was a big miss, and we'll see what happens moving forward.
Thank you for going into that much detail. It sounds like, again, I've seen, and I'm sure a lot of people have seen, like, just the amount of work, the amount of dedication that you have towards the craft, even especially with the answers that you gave at the beginning of just like your mindset has always been, what can I get better at? What can I improve at? How do I improve at these things? Like, you've dedicated a lot to the sport. I'm wondering, what was that process like after, maybe getting the email or getting the phone call of like, you didn't get the spot? Like, it sounds like you're in a really good headspace now. And I'm wondering, like, was it a bumpy road to get to this point? Was it like a pretty smooth, like, oh, okay, I understand what maybe I'm experiencing right now feeling? Or what was that process like?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I've, getting cut from Ironside, like, that was a completely different feeling. That was just like, I was like blindsided, jaw to the floor, devastated. Like, do I quit Ultimate? And then that just shot me in this like obsessive mindset to like, I'm gonna, I'm like, I'm gonna work so hard this year that I'm gonna knock Ironside out of regionals. Like that was like nobody's worked harder in Ultimate than I did in 2013, and that's just and it's I'm sure of it. This one, yeah, was different. It wasn't like, oh, I'm pissed. I'm gonna go train and beat Chris and Dylan and Grant at clubs, and then I got them. It was just more of like, I tried. I put in my best. I missed a few plays. Like that's really what it came down to. Like I didn't have the coaches to blame because I didn't play perfect. Christian Boxley, like the best player in the world, my teammate. Like I was watching, he played flawless and he was fantastic and he's the best. And him not getting a spot, like if I was Christian, then maybe I would be like very upset. But yeah, like where I'm at, it was kind of peaceful. I was with my partner Elizabeth, and like I knew it was coming, so we just kind of went on a nice walk and kind of opened it together. And yeah, it was like the hardest part was like texting the Roxbury boys and my mom, like I didn't make it because like I'd made everything before, and like my career's been a fairy tale before. Like shit, like I gotta tell them like, oh, I got cut. Like that was the hardest part, but I just I'm not motivated by the same things that I've always been motivated by. Like I enjoy training, I enjoy going to the gym, I enjoy getting better, I enjoy finding ways to get better, and that hasn't changed, and I'm going to apply that to this season. So it's part of life, and I am happy with how I responded, and we'll see what happens. Last time I got cut from World Games, that was my player of the year, my club player of the year, and maybe I use that fire, but maybe I do that again, maybe I don't, and I'm okay with both.
It sounds like there was a certain sense of contentment or just like peacefulness, knowing that you put everything that you had into it, you did everything that you could, and what it came down to was just some one or two shots. It was one or two blocks. It was maybe controllable to some degree, but also I'm sure sometimes it's just the way that the cards draw. It's the way that the cards fall.
Yeah, it is. And I think I had a shot and it didn't come in.
A quick camera change because my battery died on my other device. But to end things off, Rowan, do you have any shoutouts or things that you want to mention as we close off the regular segment of today's podcast episode?
No, just honestly, this podcast has been something that we've been working hard on just to have, the big Excel and cchan collaboration. Like we've been super impressed with all the content and work you're doing in Ultimate, and we knew Excel wanted a podcast, and we couldn't be happier to bring Chris here in as our host. So just excited to see where you take this podcast and getting it out here, episode 1. That has just been something I am looking forward to. So shout out you, shout out the collaboration, and I can't wait for you to talk to some amazing Ultimate players. But other than that, I'm just getting ready for my Breeze season. Feels nice just to have one season right in front of me and getting the body ready, getting the mind ready, and having a good old time in life. Life has never been better for me right now. I'm feeling very peaceful day in and day out, and just so grateful to live my dreams, which is just to play sports all day, every day.
That is the dream. It is living the full-time content or player. I'm sure that again, that's another thing that I could just ask you for hours about. But you've paved the way in terms of what it looks like to be an excellent Ultimate player and also content creator. I definitely drew a lot of inspiration, and also just again, you set the path. I love the phrase of you you stand on the shoulders of the giants that came before you. And I saw, I learned from your videos, and I also learned from the content aspect of your videos. It showed me, oh yeah, like there is an interest in this. Like I can get over that initial fear of like, oh, like what are people going to think about when they see the videos that I post? Because I knew, okay, if one of the top players in the world is doing it, like fuck it, I'll do it too. I don't care. So I also want to say, like, I've been super excited to record this, do this. Super grateful for the opportunity, and excited also for how this pod will end up.
Absolutely. Much love, and thanks everyone out there for listening.
Thank you for listening to episode 1 of the Field of Mind podcast. We'll be moving on to the bonus 30-minute segment on the excelultimate.com website, which is Rowan's premium library of 70 plus videos for helping people learn and coach Ultimate. Use code FOM10 for 10% off your monthly subscription. We'll see you over there. Peace. And I know that you're very popular all the time. So I remember walking out and be like, I don't know if I should say hi or not, or just like ask for an autograph too. But then I think you had also crushed us at home. So I was just like, I think this would be a bad look. Like with the coach and owner of the team, he's like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not gonna do it. And you were also like super busy too with all the autographs and stuff. So I was like, okay, it's fine. It doesn't matter.